Attention on deck. You're about to take command. Welcome to the bunker.
Welcome, everybody, back to the bunker. Yes, we've got another episode out this week. We're going to try and keep our content rolling throughout the off season, whether it's all three of us, whether it's me, Jesse, Scouse. We're going to try and keep it rolling. So here I am on a Friday, and we've got someone that he used to be podcast royalty, but now he's kind of famous because you see him on the news all the bloody time last week. Even I saw him over here on the UK. But one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Mr. Keith Gray. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's been a long time. Like I said before the show started, this is the first podcast I've done all season. It just life's busy, man. You get
Ah,
it.
man. Ah, yeah, mate. I get life. I don't, you know me. I'm like trying to do about God knows how many bloody podcasts a week. But it's good to see you, my friend. It's always good to hang out and chat with you, even if it is on Zoom, my man. We had a great time when I was with you in September. I still get people tweeting me now about the time you hung out with us in DC.
Yeah, well, the good news is you don't do that kind of stuff anymore. So
No, bro, that was a
therefore, you're not shoving that in my face anymore.
no, that was a wild weekend.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thanks,
Good for
man.
you.
Like I say, yeah, I'm not really drinking. I've been to a couple of funerals, unfortunately, this year where I've had a couple of pints, but yeah, nothing like,
I
yeah.
saw, but you know what though? When you can have a few and you still don't go back to the way that you were before,
Yeah, if you're not doing it every Friday and Saturday night like we were, man,
yeah,
that was, yeah,
you're getting it under control. You're good to go.
yeah.
I'm proud of you, man. Good
Talk of
job.
things under control, my man. We've got a great football team these days. I just wanted to get your perspective, Keith, for what it's been like. Obviously, you're part of the Hog Farmers as well. We're going to talk football. We're going to talk fandom. We're going to talk the latest news. I've heard things today that we're getting a new uniform. Cliff Kingsbury's now staying as well. So we're going to get into it all. But Keith, what was the fan experience like for you this season? We've spoke so many times. I've been with you in person. We've done podcasts. All throughout COVID, we talked about it. It was a bad time to be a Washington fan.
Yeah.
This season that's just gone, we had a little glimmer last season of what's coming with the new ownership, etc. This season was the real first season I got to live what you guys have told me. We've spoke many times about your fandom with your dad growing up, and I've heard many people tell me about the Super Bowls and the seat cushion game, etc., etc. This season for me was the first time I've got to sit down and go, oh my God, we're really good. This is what it's like to be a fan when my football team are good. What's it been like for you, brother? I know you've gone through all the emotions that I have. You go to all the games, home, you travel on the road. How different was this season for you, my friend?
Yeah, this season obviously was much different for me, considering it was a complete opposite from last year. After the Bears game, where we got embarrassed on national TV, it was a night game. I was done for the rest of the season. I sold the rest of my tickets, season ticket home games. And, you call me what you want. You could say, he's not a real fan, this and that. Listen, I'm not dropping $100 just to drive down there to go watch my team lose just to get back home from a night game at 2:30 in the morning. That's just what it boils down to. I was disgusted, just disgusted at what I saw, what I was witnessing during the season. Not one home game I went to, we had any wins. To now you turn it over into this season where, yes, there was a glimmer of hope, with new coaching, but, starting with the draft, going to the draft and picking Jaden Daniels and being right front and center when that happened, and just that really set the tone, that excitement. And then going into the season, I don't think any fan, any of us, any media member, anybody could have predicted going from 4 wins to 12 wins. So, going to the games this year was absolutely 100% exciting. I mean, you can take it back now to the Bears game where it looked like we were going to lose that game this year, and ended up being a Hail Mary. And I was being so petty that Hail Mary was on the opposite side of me, so I was upset when I left. Happy that we won, but upset that that magical play didn't happen in front of me. However, it was still a beautiful thing to witness. And each game after that, just going to games the vibe with the fans in our section was just, totally different. I mean, in fact, I believe I must have hugged George Carmi maybe 25 times this season.
He's very huggable, is our George.
Yeah, he is a huggable guy. Yeah, he was a huggable guy. I mean, that's what the level of excitement is. I'm not a, touchy-feely high-fiver kind of dude. I watch the games, I'm in the moment. I cheer when it's necessary. But this one here was much different. And I haven't got to experience that as a fan. I didn't become a season ticket holder until, 3 years ago. Dad being in the military, we moved around, and then when he retired, we were in Florida. So I didn't really get that opportunity. But once we moved to New Jersey, and I spent some years here, I wasn't able to afford it, right? But as you get older, you're working, you're getting promotions, you're getting different jobs, you're getting paid more, so on and so on. And so I had the, ability to do it. And I decided to go ahead and pull the trigger. It's probably not a great,
I get
but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the world we live in. But anyways, I decided to, go ahead and do it. And like I said, I had to go through 2 years of misery. But there was fans that have been season ticket holders their whole life, and they've gone through all the bad times. So, my condolences to them, but this season's been amazing, man.
What was the highlight for you this season? Obviously, we mentioned the Hail Mary play there. Going to the playoffs was just incredible. That the Tampa Bay, the Lions game. We're getting to the Eagles game because that was a whole different issue for you with your family and stuff, split loyalties and everything. But there were so many highlights this season. I mean, what was the highlight? But what do you put down the success to? We talk about Jaden Daniels so much. Is it all down to just one man on the field? I mean, it takes a lot you have to, Jaden gets a lot of the credit, but I think that so many other players have stepped up this season. But we spoke for so many years is you get a good quarterback and everything else will fall into place. And finally, what we've been saying since I've known you since 2020, we've been saying it for a year, like 5 years now. We've said it on podcasts and when we've been together, once we get that guy, we'll have a good team. So what is it for you this season that's finally just clicked?
Well, I think you can contribute it to a accumulation of things. I mean, new ownership that supports. They're not getting, they bought the team, they invested, but they're allowing football guys to make football decisions. You have executives that are doing their job. You have a new coaching staff that comes in and got the players to believe in them. And then you take the whole unit, as a whole, they all believed in themselves. And I think when you take all of that, I with some wins, that were happening, especially against some teams that shouldn't have. And then you have, just these magical plays that were happening, the Hail Mary. When you're winning, man, things come together. And this was perfect timing to win when you have a new quarterback, when you have new coaching staff, and you have very new owners and executives that are, calling the shots. So this was the very season and moment that we were looking for as fans. See, I think in the past, the reason why it's taken so long, besides having terrible ownership in the past, is not everything gelled together at once. You had GM that was out, grabbing guys for their names, paying them a ton of money. And listen, I don't hate that idea. I mean, of course you want to bring the best. The problem is we were bringing guys that were kind of past their prime who did well on these other teams, and they came in and they, did well for us. And, like London Fletcher wasn't one who was past his prime. When we went and grabbed him, he was one of the very few that actually worked out here when they did that. And there's probably others. I just can't think off the top of my head, but nothing synced up. We were always in search for a quarterback. Then when we find a quarterback, things look like it was on the up. But the problem is you had, crap ownership. There was a division between ownership and quarterback and, coaching staff. No one saw eye to eye. So nothing was cohesive. It was all happening at different times. This here happened all together. And I think that, again, the major component obviously was you need to find your quarterback. Because once you find your quarterback and you find a rookie quarterback that can produce 75% of the results that Jaden Daniels gave us, right? We got way more than what we were bargained for, with Jaden Daniels. We got really lucky in that situation, so it makes it even better. But when you are, you get someone of 75% caliber their rookie year, they're on a rookie contract, and that that's going to be your guy, you can now spread money elsewhere. We knew coming into this season that this team was going to have holes in a lot of, different areas. Well, those holes are definitely going to get addressed. And now we have a guy going into his, this will be his third year, Adam Peters?
Adam Peters, yeah.
This will be his third
season, yeah.
Yeah, this will be his, is it third?
Second.
Second.
He joined
I think it's second.
He joined the beginning of this time last year.
Right. So second.
Coming into his second
season.
Season,
forgive me. It just, everything is. But anyways, so long story short, he's going to be making football decisions.
He's already doing. He's at the Senior Bowl this week.
Yeah, exactly. And so with us being number 3 in cap space, there's 90s, a lot to work with.
Something 90 odd, something. Oh, it was crazy the amount of cap space.
So I look at it right now as you have a 3-year time span where we need to get into the bowl before Jaden Daniels is due that big contract. Now we know if Jaden Daniels continues his success, he's going to get that long-term deal.
But in the back of their mind, they're probably already thinking about that.
Oh, absolutely. But
this guy's going to get paid.
He gets that long-term deal, then of course there's going to have to be some shortcomings coming up in other areas. So right now is really crucial for this franchise. And again, you couldn't answer those questions when you drafted them because you were unsure. A lot of rookie quarterbacks don't translate to the NFL. We're in the best position that we've ever been in an organization.
Where are you right now? We had I don't know if you caught up with this week's episode yet. Scouse and Jesse got into it about the O-line. That Scouse is adamant. He's like, we really, really need to bolster that O-line. And, we got into it a little bit on Monday's episode. Where are you, Keith? What do you think are the 100% the must that we must come the first game in September, will come the draft, we've got to address?
Yeah, I think offensive line, you want to protect your asset, right?
That's what Scouse was saying.
Yeah, you want to protect your asset. See, that was kind of part of the issue that we ran into with RG3. I don't think we protected the asset. We could have protected that asset a little bit better, but also he could have protected himself, of course. But not to talk about that. But to answer your question, I'm a firm believer on offensive line. I really would like to see some better edge rushers. Cornerback is, defensive backs is definitely something. But my thought process on that is your number one priority. You definitely want to shore up the trenches. I'm a firm believer, especially on defense, that if you have a defensive line, like say the Philadelphia Eagles, right, and you have a guy like Jalen Carter, and you're constantly creating pressure, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of your, defensive backs. So guys like Marshawn Lattimore, who I think can, keep up with the receivers. The problem with Marshawn is he was very handsy. He got a lot of pass interference calls, put on him. So I would like to see him come into a season healthy. So priority offensive line, defensive line, and then defensive backs. Another priority, some would say, running back. Saquon Barkley is bringing the running back position back in the sense of showing how valuable it can be. And as we love Brian Robinson, and Austin Eckler had a pretty good season up until, this last game.
Do you think Eckler comes back?
I think you do bring him back if you have an opportunity. Listen, this is football, man. Guys are going to make mistakes. And on his fumble, he was punched in the arm, man. He was punched in the forearm. Like, it wasn't like he just deliberately dropped the ball. Gave us a lot of, I think he's gave us more great moments or good moments than poor moments.
Yeah, I agree.
So I definitely say you bring them back. He was, he was a nice change of pace back. I'm a little disappointed in Brian Robinson's success, although there were times where he had some big runs as well. So it really just depends on what you're looking at. If you want a bruiser back, Brian Robinson is going to be that guy. He's going to drag 2-3 guys. He's not a Saquon Barkley, but if you want a Saquon Barkley in your offensive scheme, then yes, I think you need to go, draft a running
Yeah.
back.
What do you say for wide receiver? A lot of people saying we got into the chat on Monday about Diami Brown being wide receiver too, and the boys are like, nope, not having it.
Yeah.
We need someone.
So Jaden Daniels has actually elevated De'Ami Brown
Mm.
this season. De'Ami Brown has made some mistakes as well. Through the season, he's had a few drop passes that were, crucial. I think that the way that you take a look at that is you still stick to your guns. If you're going to shore up the offensive line, defensive line, then you got to pick your poison from there. If Zach Ertz retires, I know that we have another tight end under that, but he wasn't. He didn't give us much production. So there's a lot of missing holes. We have a lot of money to do this, but I think that you got to stick with your guns. I think no matter what, at the end of the day, your success is based upon your offensive line and defensive line. If your offensive line does their job, the quarterback can do theirs. And then I think at that point, if your quarterback is elite, like we say Jaden Daniels is, Jaden Daniels is going to find a way to get, guys like De'Ami Brown the ball. But I'm not against what the guys are saying either. So I think that in this situation, if you have someone in free agency, this is where you would take a look at your free agency. I'm a firm believer that you kind of get a mix of players out of free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you have a wide receiver that you're willing to pay a little bit more money for to give you that number two, we got the money, let's go ahead and do it. But then, just make sure that you have a plan on, what you're going to do on both sides of the ball to protect your quarterback and also put pressure on quarterbacks. So the guys aren't wrong. It just really depends on what are immediate needs. I don't think a running back position is immediate need.
Because our lead in Russia was Jaden Daniels.
Right.
Nearly for what, the last 5 out of the last 6 games.
Well, I'm going to contribute that to saying this. I don't think Brian Robinson was an awful running back. I think our offensive line underperformed. And again, I don't think that you can just put any running back in and they're going to contribute to the same yards that, Saquon Barkley got this year for the Eagles. But I think that you are going to get better production because you got guys out there creating the holes for these running backs. So, again, it's not a heavy investment. Plus, we know that running back shelf life doesn't last. So I always stick to my guns. If you beef up your offensive line and protect you guys and they can block and do their job, then the quarterback can do their job. The running back can do their job. And, from there, if you definitely have Terry McLaurin on one side and you have a receiver on another, I mean, yes, you need to follow the footprint of what the Eagles have been doing, to be honest. I do believe that that's one of the reasons why we struggled against, the Eagles really in all 3 games, even though we came out with a win on one of them. And I understand the first game, Jaden Daniels had a rib injury, but there's no excuses. Pick your poison. That team had someone on every roster. It wasn't like you couldn't stack the box. If you did, then yes, you might stop Saquon. You might keep him under 100 yards, but then you're going to have guys because we're not giving enough to where from the defensive line pressure to where you were going to have guys like AJ Brown or Devontae Smith strictly eat on us. So pick your poison. They're tight end, Goddard. I mean, they just had someone on all parts of the field and you couldn't double team. If you double teamed, AJ Brown, if that was either going to leave Smith open or they could, have a run play to Barkley and Barkley can, shred yards like he was doing all season. So honestly, really take a look at that and, that blueprint and go with that because that's where the league is right now.
Yeah, Keith, I said to
how
Jesse,
you do it, I don't know.
Mate, if we knew that, we would. But the thing is, this is the issue we've got now, right? I said this to the boys on Monday, and we had a little discussion about it. We were 1 game away from the Super Bowl. So in the quote unquote rebuild year, and I stopped using that term about 4 or 5 weeks ago because we're not, you can't be 1 game away from. You can still rebuild, but I don't think it's an actual full on. We need everything. This, we're rebuilding this. You don't go 1 game from the Super Bowl if you're not an already good football team. All this, house money and all that talk. No, that went out the window for me when we beat Tampa, because I was like, no, we're a good football. We deserve to beat Tampa. We deserve to beat Detroit.
It went out the window for me when we beat the Lions.
Yeah.
Tampa, I thought, was a beatable team, even though we
Yeah.
got hammered by
And we
them.
didn't just beat
week
the
one.
Lions. We deserve to win that game.
Right. Well, so if you take a look at that game, we did to the Lions what the Eagles did to us.
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%. So what is for you now, Keith? Obviously, we can talk about the draft a little bit. Jesse was saying he thinks we draft back. I've listened to a few podcasts and a few people on Twitter saying we draft, we go up into the top 10. That's not happening, in my opinion. Zero chance of that happening. What does next season need to look like for us now? Because me, Jesse, and Scouts are like, well, we need to win the NFC East. That's easier said than done, because the Eagles are going to be the Eagles. I think the Cowboys are going to be terrible again. You know, the new coach hire, awful.
Yeah.
They're eliminating them now from the playoffs. The Giants are going to be the Giants again. I think them two franchises are where we've kind of been. You know,
Yeah,
they're
correct.
kind of they're a clusterfuck on the field. They're a clusterfuck off the field. Not as bad as we have been, but they're there. So I know they're paying. I've got Giants friends. I've got Cowboys friends. So for you, as we roll into the off season now, and this is going to be the chat all the way through to training camp, the draft, yada yada. What does next season need to look like? Because Jaden Daniels is going to be obviously loads more filming him. People are going to kind of know what's going on. For you as a fan now next season, as we all roll into September and go into the 2025-2026 season, what does success look like? Because like Jesse said, the bar's here now. We can't really, unless we win the Super Bowl, that's the bar.
So I don't really like to compare season to season, because here's the thing. We're gonna play stronger teams next year.
Our schedule is a lot.
Yeah.
Harder.
Schedule's gonna be harder. I still think that you have to set your expectations medium, right? That is the bad thing about Jaden Daniels having success his rookie year is, now he's got to, how do you raise that bar? You know what I mean?
Dude.
So how do you raise that bar?
All the elite, if you look at all the good quarterbacks throughout the league, that's what they do. That's what elite guys do.
I think as fans, and you don't go in with this thought process, but I think you need to keep it in the back of your head. Sophomore slump has always been a term. Not saying that Jaden Daniels is going to slump, but he's going to play harder temes, right?
Second album syndrome, we call it. Like you release one good album and your second album isn't as good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think, I think it's going to be good for Jaden Daniels to get that under his belt, where we're going to play a stronger schedule. I think that, well, listen, I only predicted 7 wins for this season.
Dude, I predicted 5.
Right. Right. And we only got 12, so me personally, I'm actually going to bring it down, back to 10, just because of strength of schedule. Yeah. But my fan expectation would say, I won 12 or more. Right. Yeah. So, but my logical, as a logical fan, I would say, okay, 10. Now 10 doesn't mean it gets you into the playoffs. However, what we have going for us, and I'll say this now, I believe for the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to be battling it out with the Eagles for the division as we continue to get better. Howie Roseman on the Eagles is not going to let off the gas. He's had some pretty successful drafts and free agencies over the past couple of years. I'm not surprised the Eagles are where they are now. And, we need to make sure that we get ourselves on that level, and we were close. So, I got a mixed, feeling on that. What I want to see is, I don't need Jaden Daniels to do everything. I don't need him carrying the team like he did this season. And I say that with respect. Like, I'm not saying that disrespecting any of the
And we got very lucky with injuries this season. It's very rare. Knock on wood.
Well,
first time this
we
episode.
did until
our quarterback.
Until the conference. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We were all season, actually, we were lucky for the most part when it came to injuries. I know we were missing some guys here and there that, we were missing.
Cosme was a big loss.
Yeah. And then of course, losing Cosme.
That was a huge loss.
That was a huge loss. Literally. Now, would that have been the difference in the game? I don't think so. But it didn't help, put it that way. And so, we've been pretty lucky on that. I think really we have to keep medium expectations, because again, stronger schedule. If you strengthen everyone now around Jaden Daniels, then he can continue to perform. what I'd like to see is you match those 12 wins. 10 wins getting into the playoffs, as you can see, is not that easy.
No.
The good news for us is circling back to what you said about the Giants and the Eagles is I don't think we're going to compete with them moving forward in the division. I think it's going to be Eagles Commanders for the next 3 to 5
Yeah,
years.
Giants and Cowboys are going to be.
So if that's the case, yeah. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, and if we're battling for the division and don't get in, you might need more than 10 wins, second place in the division to even get into the playoffs.
Could be a lot of wild card games coming up.
Yeah,
With the split between us
yeah.
and the Eagles
So
maybe in the next few years.
yeah, it could be either or, and I used to say in the past the division titles don't mean anything. I just want to get in. Obviously I'm full, shit when I say that because
Keith
division
Gray
title.
full of shit. No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not.
know,
I'm not
right?
having that, bro. I'm not having
Yeah.
that. It's not
Well,
true what they
because
say on Twitter.
I never wanted to give, Eagles fans, and I focus a lot on the Eagles, obviously, because of my home situation. Plus, I just think they've been a good team and the most consistent team in our division over the years. So, the Cowboys to me just isn't there. Yes, they've had some good seasons and they get, thumped out of the playoffs. I have no concern to them. The concern, and I think that I think we needed a new rivalry under this new team name. Okay. Because Redskins Cowboys was the rivalry, but with that name being gone, I just don't think there's a rivalry there anymore because neither team has been on the same page when it comes
Yeah,
to
I mean, I wanted to get to this at the end of the show, but you kind of mentioned
yeah.
it there. So we're going to kind of split this into the good and the bad because the good was I got to see you on the news with your
Yeah.
family, and it was brilliant. I mean, you kindly shared it on all your social media, so all your friends over here in the UK got to watch you on, I think it's Good Morning America, and you've done a local news channel over there.
Yeah.
Just before we get to what's gone on at the game, which we need to discuss
Sure.
because it's made national news everywhere. They've talked about it on our sports channels over here. What was that like for you, Keith, on the build up to the game? Obviously, for those that don't know, Keith's other half is an Eagles fan. One of his kids is an Eagles fan, and the other one of his kids is a Commanders fan. Good parenting from you there, Keith.
Yeah.
What was that like on the build up? Because I saw you on the news. It was great. It looked great fun. But now you've got to I hope your wife don't leave your phone around anymore. So we know what that happens when your wife hijacks. But how's that been for you, brother? It's such a cool thing I've seen from the build up. Just looking at your perspective, and I know a few other people have commented on it, like the whole family dynamic of having you live in an Eagles household. It's split down the middle. What was the last week like for you leading up to the game?
To be quite honest with you, that was an experience that one, doesn't happen. I mean, the Eagles and at one time with the Redskins and now the Commanders. It's only happened twice in both teams' history. This was the first time that it happened in our lifetime. So there's already I wouldn't say a rivalry in our house over the years because the Eagles have always been good and we've only had glimpses. So it really hasn't been that fun. Doing what we did this week was a lot of fun because locally, everyone who knows us and we're super involved locally just through our kids in sports. They know us, they know my kid, and they know that I'm the Commanders fan, she's the Eagles fan, and so we kind of just developed ourselves through the community. So when she started that canned food drive, where people can come by, we have two inflatables out front. One, it's a Redskins inflatable helmet, and then she has their, mascot out there. And when she started that can drive, it was just all in good fun. We knew that she was going to win because all the people around me are all Eagles fans. And so they were dropping off canned goods and stuff. And my little bin was empty. Some people felt sorry for me and put some cans in there. But when she did that, I said, you know what, let me reach out to, X, Twitter, whatever we want to call it these days, and put it out there, and had a lot of people support that with a $500 check. I was going to go buy canned food or canned items, things that I thought that they would need, which they do. But with Easter coming up, we asked them, would you prefer to have just the monetary value of it so they can buy hams for Easter and distribute out to families who need them? They elected to do that. And so to answer your question, once that got started, that actually caught wind, and how people were tagging, news stations. Well, they actually reached out to us. So one of our local stations came out did an interview, with the four of us. And from that moment there, it just blew up. Good Morning America reached out to us, and I had the opportunity actually to go to the one that they did in DC and be with the fans there.
Wow.
And that was a different opportunity, but I turned that one down because I would have had to have left at 4 a.m. and it just didn't seem like a smart decision for me. But then when our local stuff blew up, we got the invite, and they invited me because they liked the idea of the house divided story. And so we were the only ones out of all the groups that, the four groups that were on Good Morning America, we got asked questions, and they made it super fun for us. And really, to be honest with you, I've done a lot of cool stuff. You've done a lot of cool stuff. So, but I've done a lot of cool stuff, a lot of exclusive stuff that a lot of people don't get to do. And I'll always talk about that for the rest of my life because, I have so much love and passion, for this team, whether I'm angry or happy, right? And for the first time to be able to watch my wife and my oldest son, even though they're not fans of my team, to watch them get to experience something really super cool and do that. And then myself and my youngest were there to watch them, because my youngest son gets to do a lot of the cool stuff with me as well. And so for them to be able to do something cool for their team and us to be there as a family and make jokes on live TV, it was a phenomenal experience, probably top two of, what I've done. I hate to say this, but it almost, to me, I was more excited about doing that than this football game, because coming into this football game, to be quite honest with you, I didn't have high hopes.
I think a lot of us let our heart rule our head.
Well, I'm naturally a glass half empty guy. I'm one of those guys where you got to build my confidence to be able to talk trash, right? And my confidence isn't there to talk trash. Now, I have fun with it on a local standpoint with my friends and family who are all Eagles fans. I have a lot of fun, but I had a feeling after that regular season win where we won in the last seconds of the game, I had a feeling coming into this game, karma was going to get me because I was petty with that game. I was getting on to all my friends and family. I was talking a lot, and I just didn't really feel good about this one. But I looked at it as, hey, we weren't supposed to be here. So the fact that we are, all this other stuff going around me, I'm just going to enjoy it. So, for so many years, my wife and I talked about it, and we go back and forth with our kids. And so for that to be able to be publicly displayed, for people to see, it's something that my kids will remember for the rest of their life.
It was incredible to see, my friend. Who do you want to win the Super Bowl?
Chiefs.
Glad you said that, mate. I'm not even going to watch it, to be honest. I was watching Good Morning Football yesterday, and they were reading, I think was it Good Morning Football? It might have been a podcast. This could be the least watched Super Bowl in history because no one wanted this.
I hear you, but I don't believe it.
Because everyone watches the Super Bowl.
It's one. I don't believe
across
that at
the
all.
world.
And listen, I feel, when it comes to my wife, I feel bad for saying the Chiefs, right? But I have so much hatred towards Eagles because it's not her. It's
dude, we're about to get into that. We're about to get into that
because I've got some stuff that I want to say.
Yeah, so obviously in the news this week, prior to the game, I've seen so much on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's also made national news, local news. You probably get it over there, Keith. I've seen it on our sports news over here. Obviously, a lot of the news I watch is NFL. Everyone knows I'm NFL obsessed. The Philadelphia Eagles fans. During the game, I saw Hogfarmer Chris tweet out some of the things that happened to him. I've reached out to him. I've spoke to him. I've seen many people on Twitter, X, saying they've never witnessed anything like what happened on Sunday in their life. Now, I can only atone this to Mike. I went to the Philadelphia Eagles game at then FedEx 4 or 5 years ago now. Keith, you know me well enough to know, I go to football, soccer over here, and I've seen some things that would blow your mind. I was sat at that game in FedEx thinking, this can't be real. These people can't actually be saying what's coming out of their mouths. They can't be acting like this. Fast forward to what last Sunday, during the game and after the game, the things I've seen on social media, including women being, physically abused.
Well, it wasn't
men, kids.
Yeah,
it was
not just against our team, but
they've done it. Yeah, the thing is, they're renowned for it. The Eagles, they're renowned for it. So,
Well, they went in this past. Sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
there was a video that went viral when they played the Packers.
Yeah, I know the one you're on about.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
so I don't need to get into that,
yeah.
but I will tell you this, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about my wife. I do feel bad for saying the Chiefs. There's a deeper reason why I say the Chiefs, but what I will say is my wife, believe it or not, she did even say multiple times before our game that there's a small piece of her that would like to see our team win just because she's known how bad it's been for us. And she wants, my little one to, enjoy the excitement because it wasn't often, these past couple of years that he's been able to do that. Every game that I took him to, we lost.
Yeah.
The only time we won was a preseason game, and thankfully he was, young enough that he didn't know the difference, right? So now you fast forward into this part. She did say that, and my wife was a huge advocate for that Packers fan that got verbally,
Terrible,
abused.
bro. Terrible.
She was all over her group pages. She doesn't
good
do
on
Twitter,
her.
but
yeah.
So now getting back to what
Fast
you were
forward,
saying.
obviously to Sunday, you had the guy that he was the Jaden Daniels jersey. I can only a select few that I've seen on X, but I could be here for another. We could do a whole podcast on this. What do we need to do? How do we control this, Keith? I don't think you can, in my opinion, because you can't teach stupid. Is my main thing. But what is it about these Eagles fans that we all have banter and we get into, like I just said, I go to a football game. I go to a Tottenham Arsenal game. It's the biggest rivalry in London for my sports teams. I've seen things there that I don't take my daughter to that game. But even that compared to what I saw on Sunday doesn't come close. I've seen women children getting absolutely dogs abuse and some of the vile things that have been saying to kids. The poor guy with his hat when he was walking with his girlfriend, getting slapped about the place. I mean, how is this something the league need to look at with the Eagles fans? Is it something that someone needs to go, hang on a minute, we're not going to tolerate this, just as a sports organization, as in the National Football League, as in the Philadelphia Eagles themselves and the owners, as in God knows who's going to get involved. I mean, President Trump's getting involved in everything nowadays. It wouldn't be surprising me if something happened there revolving sports. How do you think we get to the bottom of this, Keith? And again, this isn't something you can just click your fingers and go, "Hi guys, can you stop swearing and trying to physically abusing our fans that come to the stadium?" Because I've been to Washington, God knows how many times now, and I've mixed with traveling fans, and I've even seen Cowboys fans in our stadium. We've had banter. There was one sitting directly in front of us in September. Had a great laugh with him. What is it about the Philadelphia Eagles fans that make them act this way, and what do you think we can do to combat it?
Yeah, great question. So I think really, if you take a look at the history, you can arguably say the two worst teams to go to being an opposing fan to go to their stadium is definitely the Raiders. You can hear a ton of stories there when they were Oakland. That's just a terrible area to begin with, and then of course Philadelphia, which Philadelphia Stadium is not located in a horrible area. However, you take a look at the history of stories that you hear about, and I'll just keep it to Philadelphia at this point. That you hear, they have that reputation. So I think over the years, they just continue to carry that reputation, and that's where they think that it's okay to act the way that they do. I live 20 minutes from Philly, and I've never been to a football game of our teams playing against each other. My wife doesn't go. My wife comes to
No,
all,
I've been offered a few times to fly over, and like I spoke to you off it, like when we spoke, just like you can stay. Even you're telling me like I don't even go.
yeah,
I think a couple of years ago I was thinking about coming over, and you're like, bro, don't do it.
yeah, don't stay in Philly. I mean,
Yeah,
you can stay over with me, and we can go over to Philly, and
yeah,
we can go over to the tourist area because it's nice to see,
yeah.
if you're interested in seeing American history, it's there,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but
Yeah.
it's not a place that I particularly would want to stay in. And my wife and I have never been to a game at the link. We've always just done games in Maryland, and uh, I think you just look at it as and it's sad that it has to be this way, but you look at it as don't put yourself in situations that that there's a history It doesn't give that doesn't mean that there's an excuse and they should be allowed to do the things that they were doing. But
Because
I'm
over
just
here
one of
you get
those,
stadium bans. If your fans,
right.
they're like, okay, for your next home
Well,
game, no fans allowed.
well, that's going to kind of lead into, your second question, that I was going to get into. It's, unfortunately, when it comes to sports and especially rivalries and then that caliber of a game, it's already hard enough to go to that stadium during the regular season. And then when you're talking high level, high caliber type of game like that, where it's never been done but once before, but in any of our lifetimes, it hasn't been done. I don't believe our lifetimes, but I
You're a lot
forget
older
the,
than me.
yeah, I was gonna say, well, I forget the year. I forget the first year, but I know it was,
Didn't you cut
in
the
the,
ribbon on Jurassic Park?
yeah, shut up. Um, I think it's more of what I think that the NFL can do. Because first of all, there's a couple things that we can do as fans,
Yeah.
right? And I got a lot of heat for this one. I didn't say a lot of heat, but I got some heat for this. There's a lot of people that disagree with me, right? We live in a world where we have to be careful with the things that we say. And currently, right now, the things that we say, we put that on social media, right? So let's take it to a personal level. Let's say I say some things that aren't pleasant, right? And this is a perfect example of what happened to the Eagles fan who was harassing the Packers fan. You say some unpleasant things, that gets out on social media, you risk losing your job, right? So technically, you should be careful with the things that you say. Now, there's a lot of people that don't care because they don't have jobs that they're worried about losing, right? But you kind of have to take that same concept. Now you're going into a high caliber game like the one that we played, conference championship. If I think that there's a sense of responsibility. First of all, let me say this before I say that. No one did anything wrong on social media. Okay. No one did everything wrong. There's nothing wrong with supporting your team in the way that most people did. However, what I will say is I'm not going to mention names and it doesn't matter. They weren't wrong for what they did. But when you know that you have a voice that's going to travel around or potentially travel around on social media, and you already know that you're going into a city where historically it's a hostile environment, I think you want to do everything you can to try your best to minimize and not poke the bear. Now, with that said, though, nothing that anyone did was wrong. Nothing or everything that happened wasn't deserved because someone got on social media or people got on social media. However, I'm just a person where you gotta minimize your safety. If you go into a city that's already hostile and you state that you took a place over and that floats around social media, all you're really doing is heightening an already hostile environment in a big time conference championship situation. So I'll say that. But what I think that can happen, and this is just me, I have no really idea how this works, but I do think that what we saw on social media was absolutely inexcusable. Listen, I've been to some bad stadiums, man. Raymond James was bad in playoff games. Like, you really have to look at the caliber of the situation to understand really how bad it can get. And it can happen in every stadium. But I think when you're in these high caliber type games, the NFL really should invest some money into the city to make sure that we're providing as much police force as we can. Because I don't know if you saw videos of what Broad Street looked like after the Eagles won, but you can't tell me that there was police there that could control all of that. In fact, you had an 18-year-old who climbed the light pole, which is a thing that they do in Philly, and he passed away. Right. And because typically they grease those down, they grease them down. For some reason, they didn't do it this time. But if you looked at videos of all those people in the street, you can't tell me that all those people were safe. Now, they were probably safe in the sense because it was their own team. But do you think if someone like me went down there in my team gear right? To just see something cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you wouldn't make it out alive.
I wouldn't make it out alive.
No.
And so you can't police that, but I think that you can add to police a stadium. I think that people should be able to walk to their cars without fearing something bad's going to happen to them, or have hats stolen off their head, or, people constantly jumping in their face and being verbally abusive. Like at the end of the day, man, it's just a football game. Like we all have to wake up and go to work the next day.
Yeah.
And listen, none of us played in that football game.
Nope.
Right? So it doesn't have to be that serious. Now, the chances of like how all that works, I don't know. You can't put every Philadelphia police officer at the stadium, because then who's gonna, who's gonna be patrolling the areas, so, but maybe you could, fly police forces in from other, and I just think that they can put more of a presence, is what I see.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. I completely agree. Keith, let's wrap up with one last bit of news that's come out on the last, I think, 2 days. Good old Kevin Sheehan lit the fire. We've got about 10 minutes left. The Reds, I nearly called him Red. Oh, that's the first time I've done that in a while. Redskins. I said that because, we're getting a new uniform next season. They've said
okay,
now.
So this is news to me.
Okay, so we're getting new uniforms next season. They've said that's coming out. New uniforms are going to be coming out next season. A lot of people are saying, I think Kevin Sheehan poked the fire yesterday when he said on the new uniforms or the helmet should be the Redskins logo. This is never happening. I'm going to say this until the cows come home. I got so much shit on Twitter about 2 weeks ago for this. I loved and still love. I can say that I was a Redskins fan. Proud of it. Always be proud of it. For as long as I live, as long as I'm a Commanders fan, whatever. But a lot of people were like, still now, I've just got a tweet now because I tweeted out we're doing this show, bring back the logo. Blah, blah, blah. In your opinion, is this something you can see happening? There was talk of it at the middle of last season. There was the throwback jersey and they're like, okay, now things are getting a little bit more relaxed with the new ownership, etc. And we're talking like throwbacks and the new stadium come in and they want to throw stuff back to our heritage. Is anything that Kevin Sheehan said yesterday going to come to fruition, Keith, in your opinion? Could we see a throwback jersey with a Redskins logo on it, with the Redskins on the helmet? Is that something that potentially could happen? Because I don't think I'd love it. If it happens, I will gladly sit here and go, I'll buy every bit of bloody merchandise going. I'll buy it straight away. If I see a throwback jersey with Redskins on it, I'm buying it. 100% hands up, hands on heart, I'll buy it. Do you think it could happen?
I do, and here's why.
Okay.
Is the grandson, Ryan Rutzel.
Mm-hmm.
He actually follows me on X recently, about a couple months ago.
The poor guy, man. Why?
I know. I was actually excited when I saw that. He's been, using his voice, this past season. He wants to see the logo at least be not thrown in the dumpsters the way that it was when all of this first went down with cancel culture and all that, and getting rid of things. Because here's the truth on that logo that we do know, that a native tribal leader, right, drew it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't believe that other tribes can say that it's offensive if a native drew the logo. Okay. Now people can find an issue with that if they want. I don't care. And I'll leave that at that. So with that said, with the grandson being heavily active, now there's a spot in the stadium where it's coming back to light. People who want to honor it, see it, respect it, whatever it is that each individual wants to do, it's now there. The team is also not blurring stuff out in their videos when you're at the game. The name, everything is still being said. Everything is kind of seeming like it's coming back to normal in that sense, right? I see nothing wrong with bringing the logo back to an alternate, but it should not be on the main uniforms. If you're going to continue to keep the current name and logo, let that be. You can do a throwback, put that logo on there, And I do think that the way, because you still will have some natives that will be up in arms because they see the logo as, they don't want to be depicted as a cartoon character, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do, and this is going to sound like you're buying them out, but not buy them out, but ownership can become and do something that Dan Snyder should have always have done. Build a relationship with those who disagree, those natives who disagree, and let's help financially support their communities, right? Let's bring awareness. What a lot of people don't know is, the native land that they do have, they do live on it for free, but there's a lot of poverty on those lands.
Yeah.
Right? A lot more could have been done if you wanted to keep the old name and logo on a positive aspect instead of a negative, right? The negative was it was a bunch of white guys drinking beer, pounding on their chest for a football game. But the positive aspect could have been, hey, this team is not only honoring, their logo. I don't want to get into the name because I think no matter what, people will see the name as, a slur, right? But it could have been minimized if Dan Snyder would have continued to, support the communities, put the message out there more, in a positive note, as opposed to stopping, giving towards the communities. There was really no partnership. A lot of people say, well, why does the Seminoles get to keep their name? Well, that's because there's a head tribal member that is, on the board. Yeah. And, the university literally meets with these guys, right? Meets with them. And, they bring honor to that name and logo. So that's why FSU gets to keep theirs.
Yeah.
Dan Snyder never did that for our organization. So it's Dan Snyder's fault on why we lost that stuff. So now to circle back to the question that you asked, you definitely don't make it a main logo, but I could see it being on an alternate
throwback
logo.
Yeah,
on a throwback to, not an alternate, my bad. A throwback and continue to honor it that way. And me as a once Redskins fan can at least say, well, I didn't get everything that I wanted.
But compromise.
But I can compromise.
Yeah. No, hey, look, bro, like I said, if it happens, I'll be the first guy to be jumping on Fanatics or wherever the Commanders store, and I'll be buying absolutely everything with the Redskins logo.
So what's the deal with the jerseys? Because I haven't been on.
They tweeted it out yesterday. We're going to get new jerseys next season. We're going to get
designs.
Some new designs, new jerseys coming next season, and that's what prompted Kevin Sheehan to talk on his show. I don't listen to the show that often anymore. I'm not going to lie. I listen to B. Mitch and Finney a little bit. I mainly listen to Goldie, but fan podcasts is and where I get my content from. But yeah, he put on his show yesterday that he thinks that the Redskins logo should come back, and everyone just jumped on a bandwagon. And I'm getting tweets.
So who announced that we were getting?
So I think the Commanders have said we're getting new jerseys.
They did.
Yeah, okay. The Commanders have confirmed that we're getting new jerseys. But
it's so annoying.
And then the media ran with the whole, are we getting a Redskins logo?
Right, that's kind of actually why I stayed off X yesterday, was because the whole name debate thing came back up.
I saw something. I saw so many people. I'm like, we just had our best season.
I follow like 6,000 people.
Yeah, we've just had our best season in God knows how long. And I'm seeing people on X Twitter arguing about the name. I'm like, let's talk about Jaden Daniels. Let's talk about Terry. Let's talk about Adam Peters. Let's talk about,
look, man, Quinn. Look, I get it. There's a lot of people that are still heated by it. I'm still not thrilled about it. But again, in my life, I just have a different perspective.
Yeah, dude. I had one guy DM me last week. It's like you publicize your podcast. I put it on a Facebook page. I can't remember what it was. And he DM'd me saying, you just put a Commanders podcast on a Redskins name. And I'm like, dude, I'm just putting content out there. So if you want to listen, listen. If you don't, I don't do this for clicks and listens. I do this because I like football and I love the Commanders.
I still struggle to say Commanders.
Yeah,
I still struggle to say. I feel weird saying it. I just try to keep it just Washington and I move on, or I will say Redskins, but that's my own personal choice.
Yeah, one of our highlights on September, obviously, we were sitting to the left of where you were when that "Let's Go Redskins" chant broke out at the Giants game.
Yeah.
Me and Craig looked at Craig was a couple of seats down from me. We started tearing up because I haven't experienced that in a long, and the whole stadium was going, "Let's go Redskins." It was wow.
And listen, you when you look at the stadium too, 75% of it, I know people will argue with me on this number, and it's based on my perception, but a lot of Redskins gear still out there,
Oh,
man.
loads. Yeah, I get it. I
You
get
know,
it.
me personally, like I'm mixed and I don't have a problem with it.
Mm.
I'm annoyed about the jersey thing, even though I'm happy because I would like to see them get rid of them hideous ass white jerseys. Silver and black are never our colors in that sense, and it just didn't.
You mean
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't stand it, man. I just can't stand it. Like I appreciate because I've been saying for years, a lot of people like the traditional uniforms. I've been
Yeah,
saying for years, like why not update them? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I'm not married to the look. I'm just married to the name and logo.
yeah, I get it.
You know, but unfortunately I had to divorce that. And then that's what you give me in return. Like
Mm.
that white jersey to me is a side chick, right? So you're not buying Christmas presents for it,
No.
you know, so I hate it. So I am glad. But then you know the amount of money that you invest in these jerseys, and I don't
Oh,
go cheap, dude. I go the
yeah,
Stitch
I'm the
jerseys.
same.
I
Yeah,
go
and
the
get them shipped to the
Stitch.
UK, bro. Woo.
I know. I mean, well, the first like the black one, because that one was the one that was actually was it the black one? No, it was the burgundy one. When that one was readily available, you know, that one I got on sale for 135.
Mm.
You know, but now you look at these jerseys, man, that same one, it's 160. Like prices aren't
Yeah,
getting
we went to the
cheaper.
store and just the day before the Giants game, and it was like, wow, we
Yeah.
40. I mean, I got
Oh
discounted,
yeah.
you know, a
Oh
few other
yeah.
bits,
But you're
but
paying for that one,
top
you're paying
top money.
160 or higher, you know,
Yeah, top
US
money.
dollars. So that it is a bit annoying in that sense because you know you're always having to keep up, but really the reality is, man, that's life. It's whatever.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Keith, keep doing what you're doing, my friend. It's been good to have you on our podcast. It's like COVID times again. Well, apart from just minus the virus. We're us sitting down, talking football, man. Enjoy the off season. It's gonna be long. Obviously, I know you're doing the. Just shout out, obviously, the Hog Farmers where people can find you on social media. I know the Hog Farmers are doing some great work. Obviously, we interact with you guys all the time. I have the pleasure of meeting you every September when we come over, bro. But for anyone that isn't, and probably if you're listening to this, you definitely follow him. But where can people find you on social, bro?
Yeah, they could go to at the Hog Farmers on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's not funny how the social platform has that same issue that we have with
Yeah,
our.
I still call it
Anyways,
Twitter. Yeah,
I do too.
yeah.
But anyways, you can at the all hog farmers on Twitter. In April, we have a golf tournament, fundraising golf tournament coming up. We do it every year. This will probably be the last year that we do the golf tournament, and then we're going to venture out and do some different things. But you can go on the Twitter page soon. They're going to be, you know, there's going to be some posts on it, and anyone that wants to come out and support, wants to play golf, definitely do so because it's all going to good causes, not just the
Dude, you
hog
should get
farmers.
Steve Lim out there. That guy can hit a
Well,
golf ball.
he was supposed to be out
Woo!
there last year.
Yeah,
Something
we
happened to where
made
he couldn't
seven
make it.
holes before the heavens opened a couple of years
Yeah.
back. Me, Kyle, Steve, Jesse. It was a great day until the heavens opened. But yeah, anyone that wants to follow us on social media at Commander Bunker on Twitter, you can find us on YouTube, the Bunker Podcast. Just scroll down, you'll see the little Bunker Washington logo. We're going to be back on Monday. Myself, Scouse, and Jesse are going to be dropping another show Monday, and then we're going to maybe go to like every couple of weeks. You know what it's like when there's no football, Keep. It's hard to keep rolling every week. We're going to try and put some content out for Commanders fans, and we're going to try and keep doing what we're doing, brother.
Yeah, man. Great show. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of The Bunker. I've been your host, Andy Burrows. Till next time, everybody, bunker down. Stay safe.